Archbishop Stepinac. Welcome. Is that how you prefer to be addressed? Just Archbishop?
Aloysius.
Ah, that's much better. Josip.
Aloysius.
We finally meet. Please, have a seat. Oh. How rude of me. This is Comrade Vladimir Bakaric, the president of our Executive Council of Croatia. I've been traveling all across this great land of ours as we've liberated it. Belgrade to Ljubljana. You smoke?
No.
Catholics are allowed to smoke, yes?
Yes.
Oh, that's right. It's Muslims who can't.
They're not allowed to drink alcohol either.
They don't know what they're missing, do they? You drink, no?
On occasion.
The son of a winemaker surely has a glass of wine now and then. Tell me, during Mass, do you really take a sip of wine, or is it just water to fool the masses?
It is real wine.
He won. I was certain that you'd be one to stick with water.
And what did he win?
Another week among the living. And a bottle of whiskey, given to me by the... You see, no one believed in us. And now that we've prevailed in the war, the West and the East just adore us. So we have vodka from Moscow, whiskey from America, cigars from Cuba, chocolates from Belgium. Please, have as many as you like. I won't tell.
Thank you. But no.
A man of principle. Did the church teach you discipline, or was it being a soldier?
Life did.
Aloysius, you can relax. Only the worst things they say about me are true. I wanted to meet you in person. I'm glad you came. It's always better to discuss important matters face to face, don't you think?
Yes.
So, my suggestion is that the two of us talk first, one-on-one, and then my colleagues can join us if we want. Please, have a seat. I like to hear information firsthand. That's the kind of person I am. Everybody talks, and the truth is filtered. Eye to eye, we can wash away any doubts we may have about one another. Can't I offer you anything? Now that we're alone, can I tempt you with a whiskey?
Thank you for your tempting offer, but the answer is still no.
How about a snack? We have a wonderful kitchen, the best chef in town at our disposal. He can make us whatever we want.
Thank you.
Another no. Very well. I hope that's the last no you give me tonight.
Well, that depends.
On?
What it is you're offering.
Believe it or not, I wanted to be a waiter when I was a boy. Life saw me become a locksmith. Ordinary people work very hard to get by.
Then decadence comes easier now that you have it, as you say, at your disposal.
We can't pretend not to enjoy the good side of life when it's offered, can we?
What is good to you may not be to me, or to someone else.
And you, Aloysius, you're lying to yourself. There's not a working man out there who'd refuse what I've just offered you.
A man can easily be tempted if his belief is weak.
That's the one thing they said about you. Stepinac is many things. The courage of his convictions is unshaken. I wanted to serve you. Tito, waiting on the Archbishop. Imagine what people would say.
That there is hope even for those who may seem hopeless.
Yes, that may very well be the case.
God never turns his back on us, even when we turn our back on him.
Where do you think God goes when war rages and innocent lives are lost? Is that a time when God goes on vacation?
To love or to hate, those are the options. God grants us those options, and we choose. It's up to us.
So war is a choice.
Sometimes it's unavoidable. People are easily swayed. It shouldn't be. But the temptation to have more of everything prevails, and we lose ourselves.
Swayed. The church is fairly successful in swaying the masses. Where do you think politics got their ideas from? People in your line of work.
What I do is a calling, not work.
I'd still call it work. And I'd still subscribe to the idea that God must be on vacation, allowing man to become more of what he is, a rat with a boundless desire to hoard and destroy. Does smoke bother you?
No, it doesn't.
I can't go very long without cigarettes and a drink. It's a weakness, I know, a bad one. They taught me how to roll them in Russia. Every single cigarette I smoke, I roll them myself. If I ever stopped smoking, I'd miss rolling these things more than smoking them. Do you have a weakness?
I'm sure you know that better than me.
A life of abstinence, that's a breeding ground for any number of weaknesses. We too had to give up our most basic needs in the partisans. 4 years of hunger, thirst, exhaustion, tramping through the forests, the plains, sleeping just a few hours, if any, days on end. It got so cold that I'd close my eyes, think, this is it. I'll never see the light of day again. But I endured. That's why nowadays I can perhaps forgive myself my weaknesses, because I think I earned them. There's a beauty in enduring, don't you think?
There's beauty in the survival.
Yes, but it seems to me that to endure has become synonymous with people born in this region. Something to be proud of.
You too are a Croat, like myself.
But I don't let it define me. Besides, we're creating a new Yugoslavia, one that'll be a more just place, where we can forget petty differences, where together we can work for the common goal, equality of opportunity for all.
Yugoslavia failed.
Failed because it was ruled by a monarchy.
It failed because the differences prevailed. You want to replace one decadence with a new one.
What Comrade Stalin is doing, what I'm doing, is revolutionary. It's a new world, a rebirth.
You'd put a dog, a rabbit, a donkey, and a snake into a cage. Could you imagine they could coexist without someone getting bitten?
That depends.
On what?
On how deadly the snake's venom is.
Well, that's not what I asked.
I understood you very well. Yes, there is a risk of failure, but we must try.
Try, yes, but we must learn from our mistakes.
Certainly. Why don't you go first, Aloysia?
The wish of Croats to have their land came at a high expense.
Very highest, I'd say. There isn't a tree wide enough in the forest to hide you from your sins. And doesn't the Bible say we must pay for our sins?
This war was just one of many Calvaries in the 1,000-year history of the Croatian people. We will pay for our sins. We will repent. The rest is up to God.
One night, not too long ago, when my battalion hid inside a Bosnian cave, an elite unit of German parachuters surrounded us. They had us. I may seem godless to you, but that night, something not of this earth saved me.
Yet you refuse to give God credit.
God or fate.
Maybe God and faith make fate more easily acceptable.
And maybe it was just chance, destiny. Your life could have been very different.
It very well may have been.
You were closer to getting married than I was.
I find that hard to believe.
Maria Horvat. Proposing without ever speaking a word to her. That takes courage. I'd consider my chances better by going back to that cave in the Germans than asking a woman to marry me just like that. You have no idea what it is to speak to a woman when you blindly ask one to marry you just like that.
Foolish?
To say the least.
I had faith. But I was very young. And she was.
Beautiful.
And kind.
I'm sure. But beauty is what catches the eye. You are allowed to say it, Aloysia.
She was. Very much so.
We're human. To deprive ourselves of what makes us human is inhuman. That's why I can't agree with what the church does to people like you.
Free will.
An imposed idea of free will. To serve a concept of God they portray, when in fact the thought that God ever existed is irrational. The Vatican asks a great deal of you, yet all they can offer in return is a nicely crafted fairy tale. You sacrifice your life. What do they sacrifice?
The Catholic Church has been a beacon in the darkest of times for us Croats. That is why you brought me here, isn't it? To have me now turn my back on the faith that has given me and these people everything we have. I will not do that.
No. Not to your faith. I'd never ask you that. We're very similar, you and I. We've both come a long way to find ourselves here.
Yes, but I am not your equal. Let's not fool ourselves. You could do away with me.
That's a tempting thought. But no, there are too many witnesses.
You've had me under strict confinement for 17 days now. I've barely seen or spoken to anyone without your prior consent. What I eat is monitored. Witnesses or not, I am your prisoner.
The decision to confine you was undertaken for certain political reasons. You understand it. And yet you have persistently refused any meeting or conversation offered to you.
To confine someone and offer them a friendly conversation is the same as beating someone with a shovel and offering them help.
We need to come to an agreement on some issues regarding the future of the church in this country. It would be beneficial, in my opinion, if we could be on the same page. That's my hope. And you can speak freely here. It's just you and me, I assure you.
I have experienced everything imaginable the past several years under various ideologies that have little regard for me or the Catholic Church. But yours is the only regime that sent armed soldiers and police into our court, arrested me, and confiscated church property.
What did the army take?
A month ago, as I entered court, your soldiers took my car and our telephone.
The war didn't end with the liberation of Zagreb. In Asia, Japan continues to resist.
It's over in Europe.
Yes, but we still have unresolved issues to settle with the British and the Americans. This region remains a powder keg. Have the officer come in.
At your command, Comrade Marshal.
I want the car and the telephone returned to the Archbishop immediately, with an apology from the soldiers responsible.
Yes, sir, Comrade Marshal.
Until our national governance is settled in Zagreb, it's better for you to stay in your residence at Capital. You don't want to move around too much. I'm telling you this for your own safety.
The safety of my priests and fellow countrymen is most important to me. I do not care for my own safety.
This bloody war has endangered everybody's safety, and we didn't start it.
If the people are subject to new insecurities, fear, and even vengeance after this victory as you so presented, then the army hasn't brought security.
What's that supposed to mean?
When the victors take vengeance against unarmed people, the seeds of a new covert resistance are planted. And then the war never ends. The circle isn't closed, it just widens.
And what are these unarmed people, as you say, are keeping and hiding weapons to use for some future resistance? We will crush such rogue elements without mercy.
War has brought too much death and cruelty for anyone to wish it for another. But organizing units to fight after the war turns the country into a military police state, not a democratic one. Many soldiers have failed in the past because of this, and similar ones will disappear in future.
It's not very nice or fair to compare us to.
I'm only referring to the principles of peace as written in the Bible. Whoever lives by the sword dies by the sword.
If the Allies had followed those principles, he'd still be in power.
The Church has been preaching its principles for 2,000 years, regardless of individuals or nations.
Mankind wouldn't get anywhere with prayers and listening to sermons of so-called forgiveness and peace.
The worst paths traveled are those that have progressed using violence, weapons, and hatred.
Archbishop, you have to be realistic. The rule is, whether you like it or not, the stronger set the terms.
Those beliefs have brought the world to the greatest and bloodiest massacres of the 20th century.
The Russians had no other choice in 1917. I witnessed it personally. I know you did too. The war, chaos, the feudal lords, they were destroying the people. That's why the October Revolution broke out.
It broke out due to despair. Revolutions happen when the desperate are grasping out for all possible straws to save themselves. Then it's time to change. Self-proclaimed politicians and so-called ideology show up making empty promises, imposing themselves on the people like gods.
Well, if even the gods can't help, then what can be done?
There are no earthly divinities. Christianity is the seed of faith that sprouted the blood of Jesus Christ.
Christianity is a thing of the distant past, Archbishop. New social communities call for practical ways of living.
There are no greater practical formulas without spiritual balance, morality, and faith in God. The Russians will realize this. Everybody does.
The means of production will be turned over to the workers, peacefully or by force. The October Revolution continues to move on. It'll give birth to a happier, more just world order.
That's just an assumption. It's hard to say what's worse, war or revolution.
Well, if peaceful transition isn't on the horizon, you've got to get rough.
But who has the right to impose an ideology of rule by force on the land? In the name of what?
If the feudal lords and the bourgeoisie hadn't opposed everybody in their path, the revolution wouldn't have happened. It was a historical necessity realized by Lenin and the Bolsheviks.
Any system that begins with death ends with death.
A certain dictatorship of the proletariat is unavoidable in the first phase.
The Church doesn't neglect social issues either. It has its teachings.
All religions are an opiate for the masses. Marx understood that.
He couldn't have said that in the name of our nation. Croatians have survived because of their unwavering belief in Christianity.
God and Croats. That's a lullaby.
Not a lullaby. A gentle reminder he is always by our side.
Was God by your side when you sided with the Führer?
When people are desperate to have a land they could call their own.
They make a deal with the devil. So you failed the courage of your convictions.
Our people were blinded by the desire to have a piece of land they could call their own.
So how are you better than those you're so reckless in criticizing?
The intent.
Intent. Intent is always there. It's what lies behind that makes a difference.
It's delusional to think that communism is this new form of divine purity. In spite of technical and economic progress, the world is still confronted with a spiritual crisis. Christianity is being discounted by those who don't recognize its human and moral power. Capitalism is a sickness, yes, but communism is the wrong antidote to it.
And why, in your opinion, did the bloodiest revolution take place in a Christian country like Russia?
The October Revolution is the bloodiest massacre within a single nation in history.
And yet, the ideas of the October Revolution continue to inspire people far and wide.
But at what cost? The October Revolution has been eating its own kind from the very beginning.
And how has the Church governed? Throughout history, it took up arms, staged inquisitions, burnings at the stake, witch hunts. If it wasn't for the Crusades, you as a Christian wouldn't even exist. How many people have died so you could call yourself a Christian?
I cannot undo the mistakes of the past.
Ah, the self-righteous way in which you give an excuse to any number of sins committed by those you yourself are governed by. It's amazing to me.
The church has always succeeded in renewing itself by cleansing its soul, confessing its sins, and calling on conscience and faith in the Almighty.
It's fairly easy to confess your sins when you know there are no repercussions.
There are always repercussions. Besides, the church has endured for 2,000 years. Roman emperors, various political leaders, Tsars' ideologies have all come and gone. The church remains.
Our great revolutionary from the 16th century, the leader of the peasant rebellion, Matija Gubec, he was captured by the feudal powers, and here in Zagreb, not far from where we are, they placed a fiery crown of red-hot iron on his head. And that happened with the blessing of Bishop Draskovic.
Yes. The church was weak at that time and under the influence of powerful foreigners. Had I been the bishop, I would have asked for a crown made of gold to be placed on his head.
And then you would have gotten the same treatment. Their kindness would have escaped you.
And what do we gain from living a few more years if those years are given to us because we had to succumb to a system riddled with lies?
Equality and care for others. That is what I'm striving for. Communism isn't an opiate for the masses. Communism is the ideal of how one should live.
The first Christian communities 2,000 years ago were equal in classes for all, men and women. St. Paul said, "Do not mistreat thy slave, for he is thy brother."
What you speak of is theory. Communists are the first ones to begin resolving things in a practical manner where nobody's brother is his slave.
By tricking people into thinking they are perfect, flawless. The thirst for money, power, and luxury has clouded the minds of many. You speak of the bourgeoisie that was. Where are we sitting right now? Is this the residence of a humble servant of the people?
Is yours? You must not make a house in my name. Doesn't that remind you of someone? Come now, Aloysia, you're not a stupid man. Somewhere deep down inside, you must have thought, is this sacrifice of mine worth it? You know that I know everything there is to know about you. But at night, when all is dark and our thoughts belong to ourselves, does your mind wander? You never saw Maria again?
No.
Do you think of her?
I allow myself the privilege to wonder, yes.
You allow yourself. And would the church want you to wonder? Our thoughts belong only to us, as do our secrets.
Why did you ask her to marry you when you'd never spoken a word to her?
Why do you care to know?
Asking a woman for her hand in marriage without knowing her. Her accepting. And you abruptly deciding to enter priesthood. It's perplexing.
It was not the life that I wanted in the end.
As simple as that.
Yes.
But you wondered how life might have fared if you'd chosen to marry her.
Then I would not be here, sitting with you.
Maybe you'd be on the side I'm on. Fighting the good fight and not sitting across from me giving me a headache.
And you might be in my position.
A priest, never. I love life too much to take so much away from it.
Is that what you think we do to ourselves?
To not live life fully?
To have a family? A life without my children? To feel the warmth of a woman's touch? No. I'd rather die than deprive myself of such a feeling.
Our fulfillment comes from serving others.
You have never kissed a woman?
No.
Never.
No.
Then by God, you must have a drink with me.
Thank you, but the answer is still no.
Well, I shall drink in your name. My dearest Loisek. Your statement surprised me greatly, and now that I've thought it over, my response is... And she goes on in further detail, as I'm sure you remember. Would you like to keep it? You made quite an impression on the young woman, despite the lack of conversation. Don Juan would be jealous. I'm jealous. Perhaps you can teach me. Give me some pointers.
That is a life long gone now.
Remind me. What came of Maria? Who do you think took her? God or your no?
As I said, we're given options. We pick one. Consequences are there to be endured.
Of all the people on that bus, he took just her. Doesn't that make you...
Yes?
furious?
I prayed for her soul every day since,
Why?
hoping she'd forgive me.
Did you forgive yourself?
She knows why I chose my path. Everything that happened after it is God's will.
All right. So it must be God's will that good conquered evil in this war?
Good must prevail, whatever the cost.
And who's responsible for that? Must I beg you for some credit?
You've only just begun. And I would not feel optimistic based on what I've seen.
The world without Mussolini and that despicable Ustash Pavlovich is safer.
Yes, but that depends what follows.
You deny the past, you fear the future. How can the present ever be good enough?
I don't deny a thing. I openly opposed the war and the occupation in the cathedral in front of everyone. I protested against the injustice and inhumanity, condemned the killing and degradation of everyone regardless of race, religion, and nationality. I protected and saved as many as I could. Serbs, Slovenians, all those persecuted, and not just once.
Do you have proof of that?
Proof you and your party will deny me.
For example?
The Orthodox bishop, Arina Cilic, asked me to get his brother out of a camp in Koprivnica. Pavlovich unwillingly released him, much to his displeasure. In 1941, I succeeded in saving 150 Serbian women who'd been arrested in Glina.
That same year, I intervened to free the Karlovac bishop. The following year, 1942, Catholic women asked me to intervene to save their husbands who were Jewish. I helped them get their freedom. I also saved Dr. Milutin Radovich, a Serb from persecution. In 1943, I think I had 24 interventions on behalf of Serbs and 11 on behalf of Jews. You have come prepared. You know who I am. If I'm anything that I'm being accused of now, I wouldn't be here talking with you. My corpse would be long gone, buried somewhere. I'm not alive because I'm the Archbishop. My title isn't saving me. I'm here because however much you wish to deny me my good deeds, there are, as you would say, too many witnesses to them. We can't all be buried at once.
Yes, bring me some coffee, will you? Priests took up arms during the war. You can't deny that you were aware of that. They fought for the enemy.
I never approved the actions of such individuals. On the contrary, we excommunicated some of them immediately. But let's not forget, a lot of them were subject to horrible torture at the hands of the partisans. Nailed to crosses throughout the country, skinned, burned alive. Their only sin was because they served the church and the Croatian nation.
It was war. Those are isolated cases.
So do we. Precise data on the number of murdered priests, nuns, and theologians, and how they were tortured.
And what is that compared to the number of our victims?
Is the number or a reason why a single life is lost more important?
They were involved in. We, the we restored Croatia's honor.
All of the Yugoslav nations, not only Croatia, were involved in because they had to. Croatia's misfortune is the territory it inhabits. For centuries, it has been a place where the hatred between the left and the right have had its battlefield. For those of us who fight in the word of God and a prayer, human life is paramount, whichever side it's from, not death. Word you have in your slogan.
Our slogan. The death to evil needed to be emphasized at the time. But along with death to we added freedom to the people.
Evil is evil, regardless of the ideology. And as far as the so-called Croatian guilt, it is not the first time we have faced this accusation, and something tells me it won't be the last.
The historical fact remains that after the dissolution of the Kingdom of Yugoslavia, Croatia was the only republic to declare its independence under Pavelić and take the side of Mussolini during the war. So whatever does occur, history will never be kind to you.
And Mussolini just took advantage of the people who were desperate.
Nobody cares about the content of your explanation. The headline is bad enough.
To have a state at any cost, that was the wish. The price we have paid, and one we are destined to pay over time, will be severe, but we must face it. Small nations are not allowed to write their own history, and larger ones don't care as much other than to use us, mercilessly.
Croatians are fierce fighters. I'll give them that.
Because foreigners have forced them to defend their homes for centuries.
Foreigners. The Austro-Hungarian military commander Ban Jelačić. He wasn't a foreigner, he was a Croat.
He was used by Vienna 100 years ago to defend it from Budapest. And after he was done, they left him to die his lonely, pitiful death at a residence in Zagreb, a reward for his military service.
And Croats still insist on singing Rise Up, Ban. Croatia is calling you.
We are always looking for someone to liberate us from a perpetual bloodbath we find ourselves in.
One mistake could be an accident. A long list of mistakes. At some point, you have to stop blaming others for your misfortunes. Has the coffee gone missing? Never mind. I'll come get it myself. You want some?
No.
Very well. At some point today, I'll get you to say yes to me. Where's my coffee?
There it is. About time. You can rid the land of... Still make you get your own copy. Some things never change. You were admiring them.
Pardon?
Flowers. Lilies.
Yes. Their scent.
It's intoxicating. If a woman wears a perfume with even a hint of lilies, I get weak at the knees.
How did you get them? They're not common.
No, you're right, they're not. Every week, I get a shipment. Yes, I know. You'll have to forgive me. The bourgeoisie had taste. You're in the company of a weak man.
Somehow I doubt that.
Is that a compliment you're giving me?
Just an observation.
For a moment there, I thought you and I had finally agreed on something. Together, we can be stronger. That is the purpose of Yugoslavia. The politics of it, foreign and domestic, will always have to come down to compromise. We must be aware of that.
The church is not a political organization or a business.
The church owns more land across the world than the richest nations do. You may not be a political organization or a business, but you are hypocrites.
Where are we sitting right now? Was this the home that once belonged to a Jew?
At one time, yes.
One time, 1941, 4 years ago.
Yes. But who took the homes from the Jews? The system your people supported.
Yes, but then those same homes were taken by your people. You could have given them back.
It will be discussed at some point.
The Ustashi took this house from a Jew. The communists took it from the Ustashi, yet no one is willing to fix the wrongs done by the system they just overthrew. A wrong done by one does not justify the wrong done by whomever comes next.
You know that the only reason people like you can't marry or have children is so that the church's property can never come into question. It's not because your servitude to God would suffer, no. It's only because the church might lose its precious valuables. If the people in the Vatican chose not to care so much for material things, you might not have been faced with that fatal choice. To either enter priesthood or marry Maria and have a family. Perhaps she'd be alive and well, and you wouldn't be tormented by the thoughts of what might have been. You wouldn't have the need to visit her every Friday when no one's looking. I can give you peace of mind. We're building a new way of life. You and I, we can coexist. You don't need the chain that is the Vatican to drag you down.
No, stop.
That is the reality, whether you care to admit it or not.
A child can never divorce its parents.
Not unless the parents neglect the child time and time again. Equality for all nations and nationalities. Mistakes made by the kingdom won't be repeated. Yugoslavia will be a republic, one that's federal, socialist, democratic, and just for all, equally.
Declaring is one thing. Reality is another.
What do you mean by that?
The Capital you've chosen, Belgrade. All the decisions will once again be centered there. We won't have much to say because we won't be asked what our opinion even is, and our faith will be subordinated as it was before.
After all that's happened, I should have picked Ustasha Zagreb as the capital. Brotherhood and unity. Zagreb was not an example of that. We will not tolerate nationalism as it was practiced in the so-called independent state of Croatia for 4 years. Belgrade is the only logical choice.
Not a thing in life or nature occurs without cause and effect. You hit a dog, he will react. Serbs imposed their will on us throughout the 20 years we spent with them in the first marriage called Yugoslavia. So how do you expect it to be different?
That's extraordinary. I have this same conversation in Belgrade, and the story is reversed. They are the ones who were imposed against, killed, tortured by Croats. They have proof, so on and so forth. It never ends. We must end it. Serbs are just as obsessed with their mythology and past.
Croatians and Serbs are two opposing worlds, separated by an oceans of differences.
Yet we have to find a way of coexisting. For the first time in history, we have the opportunity to eliminate these differences.
I don't know who you're referring to under we, but it's clear your revolution is introducing foreign ideas and the interests of the more powerful into the mess that is the Balkans. Everybody forgets the true purpose of small nations in this European shooting gallery.
The purpose being?
That they are designated by God and fate to connect people. Permanent bridges of sort between opposing worlds. But bridges are also the sites of the fiercest battles and tend to be destroyed. The Croatian bridge defended European Christianity.
You can't say that Pavelić and his regime served as a bridge.
I'm not talking about him now as a priest, but as a witness. A witness Pavelić wasn't fond of. I did not like him and he did not like me.
Yes, but Archbishop, the art of life is choosing the right side.
And what is history's right side? Venetians? Tartars? Franks? Byzantines, Hungarians, Turks, Habsburgs, Germans, and following World War I Serbs, Croatians have survived and were saved only through God and their faith in him, not politics.
Yes, but the revolution must go on.
New times are coming. The church is being separated from the state in the West as well.
Neither Yugoslavia or the independent state of Croatia were inclined towards the church because we publicly condemned every instance of unjust persecution.
You will have to firmly distance yourself from nationalism now.
I can only repeat what I said during my sermon in Zagreb 2 years ago. We do not support nationalism because Catholicism is universal. It was God's greatness that created many nations, different traditions, languages, cultures. Every race, every religion, every nation has the right of a life worthy of man.
I'm authorized to tell you that Belgrade would welcome an agreement with you. I personally wish for this to happen.
So do we, but not an agreement where we agree to destroy ourselves.
If you refuse, you will have to accept full responsibility.
For what?
Consequences. We're not interested in dealing with the Vatican. We specifically want an agreement with the Catholic Church of Croatia, one that you could personally administer. And as I said, I can guarantee your safety.
We cannot agree to have a national Catholic Church. It does not exist. All roads
Lead to Rome. But why? You have a chance, the power to change that. A new start, a new world. I've already begun the change, and you can start one as well. Can't you see what we're doing? Yes, the veil that is communism may not be very appetizing to someone such as yourself, but you must agree with the basic fact that some form of social equality, safety, is necessary. Haven't our people suffered enough? Don't we owe them some sense of security?
The politicians in Belgrade and the Orthodox Church have always gone hand in hand, even publicly. The Serbian Orthodox Church is more political than a religious organization. That is why the agreement was annulled. I do not want competition between Zagreb and Belgrade, all acts of vengeance. I insisted that the misunderstandings end when the agreement was annulled.
We won't give precedence in the new Yugoslavia to any one religion.
Actions are important, not words. With your methods, you get the opposite effect.
What methods?
Locking me up, The highest Catholic servant in the land.
We were forced to put you in detention. We wanted to negotiate. We sent people to you. You turned them down time and time again. What options did you give us?
Yes, you are correct. People were sent. They offered me cigarettes like you did when I came here. Probably thinking that if I smoked one with them, they'd get something from me, that I'd confide in them. You must have sent about 4 different men, all with the same approach. By the third, I flat out refused. Then the threats came.
Our official representative for religious issues was sent to you. He was once your associate. You turned him down.
Yes, he was once, before he joined your movement and went over to the partisans. I told him I would always receive him at my residence, but me not as a prisoner, and him not as a politician, but as a priest.
And we even sent Olga to you.
Hmm.
The niece of the leader of the Croatian Peasant Party, Dr. Maciek.
She was a devout Catholic in her youth, as was her uncle. I respected and helped both of them when necessary. But during her student days, Olga fell under the influence of your ideology and defected to you. She told me herself.
And what did she say?
That she believed in you and that your party was sacred to her.
Didn't that make an impression?
People like her don't come to negotiate. They come to persuade. I told Olga to go and talk politics with her uncle. There's a tremendous difference between negotiation and a persistent attempt at persuasion.
It's not very easy talking to you, Mr. Archbishop. Here are the logs. Proof that you behaved in an uncooperative manner even before the partisans marched into Zagreb. We sent a delegate to you this year before Easter. We were preparing to give a lecture to students at the university.
That was a clear attempt to frighten me.
It is crucial that we know what the young people are going to hear. Yes, he was sent intentionally with our instructions.
Instructions to silence me?
You must understand the position we're in.
You're fooling yourself into thinking I would take instructions from communists about what I say, especially to the young people.
You criticized the great powers in your lecture. I have it all here. You mentioned the evil Stalin is doing, the Yalta Agreement. I could go on. Isn't that getting involved in politics?
The church is not permitted to be timid or indifferent about anything in its environment.
But you insist that the powers that be have no right to interfere with you. That's a one-sided affair as logic would see it.
I simply emphasized in my talk the principle of peace St. Augustine came up with.
By criticizing the great powers. Your attempt at discreet diplomacy isn't very discreet.
Who's to say I was trying to be discreet?
That you aren't. But Archbishop, we must pick our battles.
St. Augustine said, Pax omnium rerum tranquillitatis ordinis, which means the peace of all things.
So why hasn't St. Augustine's ideas been realized? It is theory, Archbishop, just theory.
However you wish to look at it, I find certain comfort in those who promote peace, rather than the idea of peace gained through the means of a bloody dictatorship.
You can't make an omelette without breaking some eggs. I, too, would like absolute peace to be reached, of course. The question remains, how?
Peace comes from knowing oneself, respecting thy neighbor in their belief in God.
And I just saw a pig take flight. Let's be real, for once. 7 days after your lecture, when we were practically at the gates of Zagreb, not only did you describe communism as a looming danger, but you publicly accused us of destroying churches and killing priests. You didn't think we'd get into the city, did you?
The bishops and I simply spoke the truth, and I can repeat it now, anytime if you like.
You are programmed to have a response to everything I say.
Because I have nothing to hide. My soul is pure. Is yours? 243 priests and their followers were killed by the partisans, 169 imprisoned, 89 disappeared along with 119 theologians. The numbers keep rising.
You can't talk like this.
These numbers cannot be denied.
Enough! If any of what you say is true, then your people didn't die innocent men. And as you said, Everything in life has a cause and effect.
These were men of God and honor.
Spare me the sympathy card. They were collaborators.
On February the 7th, 29 priests were killed inside a monastery in Široki Brijeg, Herzegovina.
The information I was given was that Široki Brijeg was a stronghold of the enemy. As simple as that.
So you knew about this?
Of course I did. The problem was dealt with.
These men possessed nothing but kitchen knives.
You were there? You know this to be true, what you just said?
I know enough that guns are never part of the clergy.
So quick we are to defend based on old assumptions.
As quick as you to assume otherwise.
You should know better, Archbishop, than to stick your neck out to save someone from Herzegovina. The only thing they enjoy more than money is distorting the truth. There was credible proof to have them
Killed.
dealt with, and I was the one who gave the order. People die in war, Archbishop. A message needed to be sent.
No trial. Just an assumption and immediate verdict. We are returning to barbaric times.
In France, just this last year, during the liberation from the Germans, thousands of suspects have died without legal process. Why? Because they collaborated with the enemy.
France is not like the Balkans. Here it is enough just to label someone and that's it. An entire nation being persecuted.
It's the hand of our people's revenge.
The power is now in the hands of your commanders and commissaries, most of whom are Serbs. They too collaborated with the Germans, but this gets conveniently forgotten. Their chief commander, Nedic, he bragged that Serbia was the first country in Europe to rid itself of the Jews. And you think that Yugoslavia can suddenly become a community of equal nations?
That is the vision, and that is how it will be.
You too are a Croat. And this is, after all, your country. I hope a part of you remembers that.
I am a Croat. And I'm the General Secretary of Yugoslavia. What I am and where I'm from is what gave us our divisions. We need to set it aside. We are all Yugoslavs.
Many of the soldiers that fought in your army fought alongside the Chetniks, a side that can't stand the sight of anyone who is Croatian, and you expect them to suddenly change.
They volunteered because they realized that our revolution is necessary.
They didn't change side based on principle. They changed side because they saw that history was about to change. Their intent was to save their own necks. They will turn their back on you if they see something better coming around the corner.
Would you blame them?
An army without a backbone is like a parishioner without a church. I have been speaking the entire time about what's important to my believe as a nation, but if I'm not allowed to function, there is no point to this meeting.
And according to you, what are these issues?
Well, for example, on the edges of the city, in the poorest neighborhoods where, according to you, you once fought for the human rights of the ordinary man, camps are being built with barbed wire fences. Every day, these so-called prisoners in these camps are taken to military courts or simply disappear. These are ordinary men whose only guilt is that they were forced to live under them.
They could have joined us.
They are not like the Chetniks.
I don't see a problem in our vetting process. We must be certain that those who remain are steadfast in their belief in anti-fascism. Besides, if our camps are so terrifying, what would you call Jasenovats? How many were killed there?
A house taken by the Ustasha gets taken by the communists. A camp built by the justifies one built by the communists. And round we go. I sent a letter, I'm sure you know about, directly to Pavelic. Everybody in Zagreb knows I openly stated that Jasenovac was a disgrace for all Croatians. That is why I ended up on the unfavorable list in the previous system.
It's well known that you met with Pavelic.
Yes, according to protocol. After the Croatian state was founded, I was obliged to. The same way I'm respecting your invitation as the leader of the new Yugoslavia. In the same way I'd respect if one day someone else was sitting across from me where you are right now.
Let's not get ahead of ourselves.
If I told you I said the same thing to Pavelic, and he said those same words you just said to me, you'd label me a liar. Nothing lasts forever, least of all politics.
I'm willing to bet that I'll last a little longer than him.
I warned Pavlich and the members of parliament, once they instituted race laws in 1941 in front of St. Mark's Church, that God's laws were supreme and that we should all be ruled by them. From that moment on, his relationship with me was nothing more than courteous at best.
And towards the end of the war, you reached out to Pavlich.
Yes, in 1944, when Hitler and his allies were beginning to lose the war, I wanted to save what could be saved. For the sake of our people who were tricked into something they were never part of. He arrogantly and flatly refused me.
It also says in the reports that the occupiers held talks with you just a month ago, before they retreated, asking you as Archbishop to take over power. This means that you are an authority to them.
I was not made aware of that. But I know I was a persona non grata for some time. I think you know me better than my own flesh and blood.
It also says that before their final retreat, you paid a visit to the occupiers. Were you saying your goodbyes to them voluntarily?
I requested from the Ustashas that they and the Germans demine Zagreb before fleeing it.
I, for one, would have had them demine the city by making them walk across all the fields they placed the mines in.
Revenge.
Justification. Reap as you sow.
If those mines had remained, many civilians would have been killed, along with your soldiers.
When the partisan army entered Zagreb, the man who sat in that chair when you walked in, the president of our Croatian government, Dr. Vladimir Bakaric,
I recognize him.
appeared before your residence, yet no one had the courtesy to greet him. Is that how liberators are welcomed?
I recall that my people told me 3 dusty cars with soldiers were circling our cathedral, armed to the teeth.
Armed or not, it was your duty to greet them with respect.
Our doors are open to anyone who wishes to enter, just not those carrying weapons.
They deserve to be greeted as heroes.
Zagreb was engulfed in chaos in those days. The government was changing. We didn't know who was in those cars.
And that's a lie. A message was sent informing you that the president of our Croatian government would be visiting you upon our arrival in Zagreb. Your people never responded.
I was never given such information.
This is a report from one of our officers, stating that the message was received and signed for by one Svetozar Reting. Isn't he your closest associate?
One man's account does not make it a true account.
You don't say. Have a look at this. This is to certify that I, Svetozar Reting, have received the request that Archbishop Aloysius Stepinac, with his signature at the bottom.
I see it, yes.
So either you or your associate is lying.
I am not, and he is.
Yes.
He told me that an officer came one evening, informing him that one of our parishioners had been involved in an accident, and that he needed confirmation that indeed it was the same man we all knew.
Can you trust those closest to you? From what I gather, your associate is not someone who likes you very much. I thought loyalty was the foundation of the church.
I had no knowledge that anyone was coming.
Whether you did or you didn't, would it make a difference? The fact is, you didn't think we'd reach Zagreb, did you? Certainly not as fast as we did. You have been preaching against communism from day one. These are facts, indisputable facts.
I didn't think you would reach Zagreb as fast.
Finally, you admit it. So could it surprise you that I had no other option but to isolate you?
It's funny how so many words can be used to mask the actual meaning behind the only word that can truly paint what was done to me.
And what is that word? Detention.
Imprisonment. But what surprised me more is that you freed me from prison 2 days ago and asked me to come here today.
You would like to paint me as someone void of mercy. Yet when I tell you that many proposed you be relieved permanently of your duties, and I was the one who said, no, let me meet this man. Let me look into his eyes when he tells me his version of the truth.
But the army you defeated wanted me gone as well.
That's a convenient statement. Can you prove its validity?
And where's the proof that your army wanted me gone besides you saying it?
The difference being that I'm the head commander of the Yugoslav army and they have to listen to me. I have many subordinates, but above me is nothing and no one, least of all your God.
The extremists on the right wanted me gone. I was not Croatian enough based on my sermons. To defend the innocent, that is the duty of the church. There was credible information relayed to me by the former military attaché of the German command in Zagreb that I was on the liquidation list.
So you're saying the Germans saved you from assassination?
Well, they had the last word on everything, so yes. It's likely. Assessed that the murder of the highest serving Catholic Church official would do their government more harm than good. And me being gone wouldn't do you any good either.
Yes, tell them to wait a little longer. All right, I'll come get some coffee. They're waiting for me to call them in. The two of us need to come to an agreement on the basic idea of how the Church of Croatia should go on.
The church will remain as it has.
Archbishop, time is passing and Belgrade's waiting. I have to tell you that a lot of people were not very enthusiastic about our meeting.
Belgrade has always been against me.
And why do you think that is?
I am a Croat.
That's all.
That's plenty.
Well, so am I. It never presented itself as a problem when I was there.
You share the same ideals. To you, that is a stronger bond than one through faith, because you have none.
Belgrade wasn't always against you. King Alexander himself gave permission for you to be the head of the Catholic Church of Yugoslavia.
He understood that the biggest obstacles the kingdom faced was how it behaved towards Croats in the Catholic Church.
Is it true that you once told the king that the Church is the only institution capable of opposing the approaching communism?
Something in that sense was said, and I still hold that to be true.
That the Church would defeat communism?
Time will tell.
2 months after speaking with you, the king dies at the hands of an assassin in France. Some people believe you were involved in this.
They may blame me for potential floods, tidal waves, earthquakes. I wouldn't be surprised.
No, they wouldn't blame you for these things. They would blame God.
King Alexander did confirm me as the archbishop, but only after 2 previous options were deemed more nationalistic than me.
I guess the king was misinformed.
The fact that I served in the army gave the impression.
You would be obedient.
Perhaps. But I had no desire in becoming archbishop. I felt I wasn't worthy.
Then why did you accept?
I obeyed the calling in the name of the cross that I wear around my neck.
My late mother was just as devout. She bore a lot of children.
Did she pray often?
Oh, yes. Although I think God probably wasn't paying attention.
You find it a weakness to pray.
I find it a warm blanket when nature surrounding us becomes cold.
I had heard you'd suffered a terrible bout of pneumonia, that you almost died.
That's true. I endured.
Did you pray in that moment?
I enjoy when things become tough, even seeming insurmountable. It stirs something inside of me.
You didn't answer my question.
I always sleep uncovered. My mother would yell at me for that. Old habits.
It's never too late to change, if it is for the good.
You need to acknowledge the reality of your current situation, Aloysia. It's useless to go to Mass in the afternoon. Time is running out.
I fear we will never come to a resolution.
We can, if we want to, both of us. We hold the keys to how this land will go on, what kind of a world we wish to live in. We can agree that help is what people need, yes? Our approaches are different, but our goal is the same. I don't believe in life after death, and I certainly don't avoid the pleasures of this earthly existence, as you can see, but not a single soul can say that I haven't made great sacrifices for the beliefs that I fight for. Going into the forest with barely 100 like-minded idealists in 1941, when everybody believed that would prevail.
If it weren't for the long Russian winters that also took down Napoleon, nothing would have been able to rescue you and your like-minded idealists. Not even communism. Then the West united, saving Stalin, giving him a free pass.
Poetic justice.
Everybody has to pay the price, sooner or later.
And if the British and the Americans had landed on the Adriatic, then the story would perhaps be written in a completely different light.
And would you have forgotten that the British and the Americans were not fond of Marx and his ideas?
Just last year, I assured Prime Minister Churchill that I wasn't going to introduce communism to Yugoslavia.
Then you were not an idealist. You were a politician, another chameleon.
I'm a survivor. My goal is to preserve Yugoslavia at any cost. The imperialists, as well as the Soviets, let us down at Yalta. But still, I managed to get aid from both the West and the East.
Marxism or communism of any kind is not going to save us, nor are the nations you are uniting in this new Yugoslavia. But now it is being misused to mask a more perverse horror on the horizon.
I insisted in the Politburo that the Croatia-Serbia issue is the most important one that needs to be solved, with the help of the Orthodox and the Catholic churches. But in Belgrade, they say that you can't be talked to. And after speaking to you now, I'd say that's a bit of an understatement. Stepinac is stubborn, they'd say, a fundamentalist. And I'd use the argument that the Germans killed your brother in your hometown of Krasic because they knew how close the two of you were. And Belgrade's response is that in your hometown, we had one of the bloodiest battles of our whole campaign. In a single day, in 1943, 500 of our fighters died.
Now my hometown is the enemy.
Do you see now how far this reaches? You say your neighbor killed your cat, he proclaims you killed his dog, you say he poisoned your cow, and in return you burn down his stable. This way, another conflict in the future is certain, and why must more blood be spilled?
We have to first agree what version of history is the accurate one. You speak of a new beginning. Well, what is happening now since you've liberated Zagreb?
I told you. This war didn't end with the liberation of Zagreb.
But the war in Zagreb is over. And yet, a large number of civilians, women, children, the elderly, all throughout Croatia are moving west, fearing retaliation.
If the enemy surrendered their arms, nothing would happen to the civilians.
Surrendering to your units would have meant death to the soldiers.
They are the enemy. We have to radically cleanse our home.
What is happening is an exodus of an entire nation, unprecedented in Croatian history. Thousands upon thousands are being killed. I am not blind to any man's desire to seek revenge, however primitive it is in my eyes. But civilians?
How many of the Allies killed at the end of the war? Entire cities leveled to the ground. Berlin, Hamburg, Dresden, massacred, and not accidentally.
And how are they better?
They are not. But the winners get to define how their sins are remembered. I wouldn't even call them sins.
What would you call them?
Prevention of selective amnesia.
The killing of 200,000 civilians is necessary to prevent people from not forgetting?
You have fallen under the influence of the enemy's rumors.
Entire families are being erased.
The number you just stated is propaganda spread by the enemy. You are treading through muddy waters, Archbishop.
You can silence me and others for now, but witnesses have escaped. The truth will come out despite being locked in graves and pits all throughout this land.
We can agree that both sides have their graves and pits.
I am supposed to keep silent. Forget. In front of you, even. A fellow Croat. A communist of all things from a Catholic family. A fighter for a new and more just world, as you say. I would betray the cross that I wear around my neck and the vow that I chose to live by if I did not speak the truth. Yes, the truth. Not the truth as I see it, but the truth that is. Belgrade has you blinded. Yet you forget they would do away with you if you expressed anything other than what they say is true and right.
Have you considered that what you think of as the truth might not be as such?
People can be wrong, and the truth is likely to be somewhere in the middle.
A place nobody wants to visit.
The march of death of our people, yours too, is happening now as we speak. In times of peace, people are still being killed. Croatians in your new Yugoslavia will not forgive or forget.
Oh, they must. That's in the Bible, remember?
They will. If the evil deeds that keep happening stop being denied.
Then they shouldn't forget that just a few days ago I issued an executive order to our troops to stop the killing of prisoners of war or others arrested by our forces.
If you issued such an order, why is it not being followed?
Unlike God, I can't oversee everything. Yet. Anyone sabotaging orders will be punished. I've done as much as I could, within reason.
This land is the cradle of European Christianity, a place that prevented the Turks from the conquest of Europe. Right now, the choice is between you and Pavlich. Under whose sword do you wish to die? If he picks a side his neighbor does not, it means he has to take up arms and kill. In the name of what? Some ideology, both of which are destined to fail.
I warned you, we can't talk like this. We won't reach an agreement if this continues. You are constantly equating our struggle with the...
Death on either side is death. The pain those closest feel is still the same, left or right.
A price gets paid for making the wrong choice in a war.
The curse of King Svanimir lives on. It's a plague that refuses to die.
I've heard of it. That's a folktale, a fable.
That's what you don't seem to understand. A people who have never been allowed to write their own history have no other option but to pass it on through talk and language as teachings. So when King Svanimir was about to be stoned to death by his unfaithful countrymen, he laid a curse upon them, that they would forever be subservient to foreigners and unworthy of their own land.
I know the story.
And ever since, Croatians have fallen under the rule of Hungary, and then the Turks, Austrians, Italians, Serbs, and foreigners, as always, find a small number of sycophants who, under their protection, serving their own interests, raise their hand against their own flesh and blood.
Every single subject raised with you ends with God and Croats.
Because I am a Croat and a Catholic. It's tragic that one isn't allowed to mention it without being labeled a nationalist.
Intolerance grows once people start pounding their chest proclaiming their so-called national allegiances.
Intolerance arises when one of the groups is not respected and attempts are made to eradicate it. When Croats remember their past, we are accused of wanting a great Croatia. Why? So that others can conceal their own great state pretensions.
The system we defeated wanted a great Croatia, and did you see how far it got? This is why communism is a progressive idea, because internationalism erases national divisions and prevents national conflict.
You'll have trouble seeing it through in Yugoslavia. The Serbs will never abandon their obsession with either transforming everybody into Serbs or subjugating them. They will focus on us, Croats the most. Don't forget that. And since you've brought it up, Christianity transcended these divisions long before communism with its message of love thyself as thy neighbor. But nowhere in the Bible does it say you should forget one's mother, one's father, one's grandfather, great-grandfather, or avoid thinking about one's roots. Don't you care about your family? Don't you ask yourself who they were or where they came from?
I've spent more time with you than was planned. I've given you an opportunity to talk, to vent your grievances, something I didn't have to. This was really at my discretion.
Well then, is a thank you enough?
We have to get to the matter at hand. The obstacle of Croatia and Yugoslavia will be solved only if we reach an agreement on the most important issue, the relationship between your church and our government.
How do you see that coming to pass?
You and the Catholic Church must become our ally. You must remove yourself from the governance of the Vatican, be a church that is ruled by you and your fellow worshippers and not by religious bureaucrats sitting in Rome.
That's the reason you called for me.
Yugoslavia, and Croatia as part of it, must be an independent republic, deciding its own fate. At the moment, you are dependent on the Vatican for your decisions, a state that was and will always be a foreign Italian entity to us. Just 2 years ago, it was part of a movement that fought against us and the free world. This is something I know you'll deny, but these are facts you must accept.
Italy freed itself during the war. The Vatican was made a sovereign state in 1929 specifically so no one can claim it as protector of Italy. But the Vatican is unique to the world. It has no military or police, politicians or diplomacy of any kind like others. The Vatican is a place where Jesus' legacy is preserved.
A legacy begun by Romans in Rome after they crucified him, the very man they worship now. Pavlich went there to pray, for God to give him the strength to kill in his name. And what did the Vatican do? Not a thing.
If he did go, it was never an official visit as head of state, and he was never received by the Pope. The Vatican weren't interested in meeting with Pavlich.
Come now, Aloysius. Nothing in politics is accidental. He may not have been officially received by the Pope, but the Vatican shrewdly avoids getting thrust into the sewer when those near them fall into it.
I informed the Vatican of the crimes perpetrated on Croatian soil during the war by both sides equally. And anyone who wishes can visit the Vatican. You too, as a Catholic and a Croat, can do so as well. Nothing is preventing you.
I'm sure the art is worth the trip.
Should you answer that? Perhaps they wish to bring you more coffee.
It'll stop. It is crucial for us that you distance yourself from the Vatican in some way. The rest will be easy.
The cathedral in Zagreb was built stone by stone over 1,000 years. It was built as a spiritual and religious union of the Croatians with the Vatican and God. It's just as old as Paris' Notre Dame. 1,300 years have passed since our nation adopted the Catholic faith, again through the intermediation of Rome.
You are returning to ancient history.
There is no present without a clear understanding of the past. That's the mistake politicians make when they attempt to resolve current issues by making a quick and superficial break from the past. You can cut a tree down above its roots, but 10 new branches sprout upon its surface.
Forget preaching for a moment and be realistic.
The reality is that communists choose to ignore the roots, as if everything originated with them and by them.
You're repeating yourself.
1941 of all years marked 1,300 years since we adopted Christianity as our faith.
The same year you stood by the wrong side when war began.
1,300 years of loyalty, Mr. Broz.
I am the General Secretary of the Communist Party of Yugoslavia, and as such, I am known as Tito. I believe I have earned that.
I'm addressing you now as a Croat and son of a Catholic family. Something I hope you haven't forgotten. Tito.
It's a little late in the day for that now, Mr. Stepinac. Unless you're thinking of rebaptizing me.
Miracles do occur.
I have admiration for your tenacity. And I do understand you. Do you understand me?
God wanted us, both you and I, to be here in this moment and time in history. The future will judge us on how we act in this moment. But our history, Croatian history, and the history of our faith began 1,300 years ago. For centuries, the Vatican has stood by us. prayed for us, and we have been there for them. It was here that the bedrock of Christianity was defended. And now you wish for me to just forget it, set it aside, erase it, so that I can help you breed an idea founded in atheism. In the name of every Croat living and gone, I will not do that. Not now, not ever.
The Vatican's tentacles overreach their boundaries. I see the connection you seem to have with them, but I can't accept a foreign entity to have so much power. I can't allow it.
The Vatican is not run like a government.
Well, perhaps we could learn a thing or two from them because they've managed to govern without officially governing for 2,000 years.
Spoken like a true atheist.
I don't hide my disbelief, just like you don't hide your belief.
So what created us?
You've just given me a lesson in the history of the church, and now you want me to give you my version of what the universe is?
I've always wondered how an atheist can believe in love and not believe in God.
God and love are not the same.
One cannot believe in love without God, or God without love.
That is a rabbit hole.
In what way?
If I tell you that I believe in love,
You believe in love?
I do.
Well, that's enough.
You asked.
Go on.
I believe that we are a fortunate accident, one that has the capacity for beauty, to create it, to enjoy it, live with it, and by it. But do I believe that God created us? No.
And you've made inquiries, to be sure.
Spiritual or physical?
You said there is no presence of any physical evidence.
Well, no, there isn't.
Well, that may be true. But I'd argue that there are millions around the world who, without the actual physical presence of God, have felt it.
When people want to believe, their belief tends to cloud their judgment, much like yours.
I have felt God in every step I have taken in my life.
You speak of love, but you've never kissed a woman. People like you stand at the altar, handing out lessons, speaking of things you yourself have never experienced. How could you? What am I saying? The church won't allow it. If God created us, as you say he did, then why? Why must his emissaries, people like you, mute your human desires? Is that Christian? Is it love? I'd say it isn't.
Our love belongs to the worshippers.
Oh, forgive me, but shit doesn't suddenly turn into gold just because it comes out of your mouth. What would you call your talk on what love is? Theory or practice? Which is it?
I did sacrifice. A different kind of life for the one I have now, yes. But I have no regrets.
That's not what I'm talking about.
I have never kissed a woman. I don't know what that feeling is like, yes. You have me beat. I will never have children. Perhaps the one aspect of all you mentioned that rings inside my heart is that. But I have love inside me. The love for my people and the love for my country. To you that may seem foolish, but to me, it gives me purpose.
I want an agreement between you and me, between the church and the government, to distance yourself from the Vatican. I am giving you an opportunity to live in peace, to coexist. If you don't take advantage of this, I'm afraid things will go downhill rather fast.
I will not back down from my stance.
And what if you were to take refuge in the Vatican for a while, a spiritual sabbatical?
I don't need the Vatican to be spiritual.
You don't need the Vatican, yes.
You are trying to trick me.
You don't need the Vatican.
I don't need it to be spiritual. I need it for guidance.
Well, that's the thing, isn't it? Your guidance isn't your own. You're a mere puppet of the Pope.
And are you not one of Stalin?
For your own good, you should rethink your present decision for the sake of the future. We'll work to further consolidate our power, and whoever opposes us will encounter a monumental obstacle. The revolution continues by all available means, legal and justified.
The Stalinist trials with Balkan twists.
There are people who want to see you prosecuted.
Many would.
Prosecuted for war crimes. There is evidence here to plant a seed of doubt, and the world will never see you as an innocent man again. It's all it takes. A single seed.
I am ready for whatever storms may lay ahead.
You don't want to be running into the mist like a goose. Few have survived it. I hope I'm being clear.
Crystal clear. But let me be clear. Our church has not refused to work with your government. It is in fact the other way around. We've been told what to do, dictated. Believers are being warned not to attend Mass, and yet you proclaim freedom and protection of religion. The youth are being politicized and encouraged to oppose all those who aren't in the party. The printing and publishing of our books and papers is being suspended. Charitable work and the work of nuns forbidden. Not to mention that priests are still being imprisoned or simply disappear without a trace. So tell me, what would happen if we surrendered and leave the Vatican? What would become of us?
I'd say that would be the wisest decision you could make. For your believers, and for yourself. But I'm not in the business of persuasion.
This entire conversation has been just that.
Well, if it has, then I'm obviously not very good at it.
I will not abandon the vow I've made to the Church, to God, and to the faithful.
You've made that abundantly clear. Time isn't on your side, nor of the symbol you're wearing around your neck. I'd hate to see it looked down upon one day, just like the swastika is.
I choose to have faith in the one who sacrificed himself for us. And I am convinced that your red star will never replace the symbol I wear.
You've said no to me the entire evening. I'm not accustomed to this. So permit me a request. I'd like to hear one yes from you.
That depends what you're asking of me.
You have to say yes, and I'll ask. But you have to say yes beforehand. You can trust me. This once.
Only if you accept a gift I have for you.
A gift.
Yes.
I can't say no to a gift.
Then I will say yes.
To new ideas.
To truth.
Aloysius, perhaps I've been all wrong about you.
Well, I am the son of a winemaker after all.
And now, your gift. I'm excited.
So that you remember your roots and always know that He is there for you, even if you choose not to believe.
Very thoughtful of you. Thank you. The meeting's over. Get the car ready to escort the Archbishop back to his residence. Good night to you, Aloysius. And good luck.
Can I leave you with one final thought?
Of course.
When the great artist Voltaire, who had been a harsh critic of the church his entire life, was on his deathbed, a friend asked him, "Voltaire, is there a God?" To which he replied, "Perhaps now is not the right time to make new enemies." May God be with you, Marshal Tito.